This is the most basic thing, like don't waste a founder's time.
Me as a VC, my role is to be chosen and then to choose.
Investors, take a few seconds from your precious time and go check their website, go check their LinkedIn, and just have a glimpse at their pitch deck, and you will understand.
The features comes at the very end of it. So you need to understand how money works in the company, how decisions get made, the larger market, the unit economics, the competitors. Like, don't think features. Features are a way for the company to get to more market share, more revenue, satisfy more consumer need.
When you have a solid product market fit or a strong product market fit hypothesis and you need a go-to-market budget for that, this is when you need to raise your seed. And the expected time spent for you to achieve that after raising your pre-seed is 1 to 2 years. We are like, I think 10 times more conscious and careful about the businesses that we invest around generative AI.
Looking at it from a different angle, you can see AI as eliminating the gatekeepers.
Say 2 startups that are onto a great idea. What will make the difference between the 2 of them in 6 months is how much of the right thing did they do every month.
And without failure, there is no success. Now, if you have a smart VC that talks to you, you can pivot.
So when I started to imagine this conversation, for me it was like, and maybe George and Adrian can understand better. This is like those Romanian jokes when you begin with a Romanian, a German, and a French was doing something, and then the jokes goes on and blah blah blah. Now it's not different, very different from that one, but we have an operator in startups, an investor, and an experienced founder that will bring their perspective into this topics that we've prepared, and I hope we'll get very very nice insights about how to build, how to grow, how to basically change the world with your idea. I've prepared 1 questions for each of you guys in the beginning, and then we'll move to the bucket list, and I will give this to you to start the conversation. George, I will start with you. Please read the question, and then I hope you have one ready for us. And then this one is for Adrian, and this one for Tunya. So George, tell us the wisest or the best or the nicest.
So, given that we are in public, I will not give a quote from Bulla, my preferred philosopher. I'll quote the other very, very smart philosopher, Mike Tyson, who said, everybody has a plan until they are getting punched in the face. But you presume that I know how to read.
Nice, thank you so much, George. Okay, let's move to Tanya. Let's see what you get.
The number 1 myth founders believe about VC funding. I think founders think that VCs are in the like supply side and founders are on the demand side. But it actually works in both ways. So VCs are both the demand and supply, and also founders are demand and supply, depending on where you're looking at it from. So for example, for VCs, they're also struggling, and it's a huge challenge for them to find quality founders. And when they do find a founder, like a very quality founder, very quality startup, then it means that they are right now on the demand side. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Adrian?
Right, so my question is who will win Bolt or Uber and why? So the context here, I was a VP of product at Bolt, probably one of the most amazing companies in Europe operating in the mobility space. And obviously Uber was one of the competitors. However, I do have like a good overview of the space, because before working at Bolt, I worked at Grab, who was basically the Bolt or Uber of Southeast Asia, and I understand a bit of the unit economics. and I don't think there's a question of who will win, because then the question is where, geographically, and then also what service, like will it be ride-hailing or food, or who will win as a company who can aggregate the unit economics as potentially a super app or individual apps with different verticals. But the answer, and obviously I hope both will win, but Bolt would win more because I'm incentivized. I have stock there, so hoping for a successful IPO for Bolt definitely, and an amazing company like that has been executed by like a small country in Central Eastern Europe, from Estonia, right? And it grew to almost like $10 billion latest valuation, probably one of the most interesting companies in Europe. That being said, I always have an answer when people ask like, oh, like, is this the right way or is that the right way? And the short answer is there's more ways to build a great thing. And probably the easiest example is that company that just by doing video content manages to bring value of more than almost $20 billion in an innovative way. And then if I ask which company, you might say Netflix. And you'd be correct, but if you'd have answered YouTube, it would also be correct. Right? Two companies within the same space, video content, done very differently. One investing into producing its own content, and one leveraging a community to build content. Very different distribution methods. One is free and based on advertising. The other one is based on subscription. So, you know, like the way you get the content, your supply that you were saying before, the way you go to market and the way to reach your consumers, they are very different between these two companies. Yet they have almost the same type of revenue acting within the same space. So there's no one way of doing a good thing. And this is how I look at Bolt and Uber. They are both amazing companies. They executed in a fantastic way. Bolt was in a part of Europe where there was less capital. So it just had to be this type of scrappy company to just grow despite lack of capital, and it approached the market and the go-to-market and the growth in a way that was different than Uber's. But it doesn't mean that one is necessarily better than the other. They are both amazing companies. Obviously, Bolt is closer to my heart for a variety of reasons, but yeah.
In Oradea, Bolt is kind of winning. Okay, Oradea is a very small market, but anyway.
But the value proposition so you can see culturally that the company comes from this part of Europe, because the value proposition towards all actors on the platform, like both drivers and users, end users, customers, the value proposition is much closer and much stronger in Central and Eastern Europe. So this is also the part where Bolt has much higher marketplace. And actually, like pretty much half of the business of Bolt is in Africa, where also like a very interesting value proposition for customers and driver partners in that part of the world. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I will ask you to now tell us in just a few seconds, what are you guys right now doing and building and investing in like 30 seconds, and in the meantime we'll bring the ball here where we'll have the rest of the questions. So Tunya, can you start telling us a bit about what you are doing right now, and then we'll go to George and back to Adrian.
So we are running a fund, a VC fund, focusing on early stage companies and founders from Central Eastern Europe and Turkey. So our fund's name is 500 Emerging Europe. We are operating under a huge organization based in Silicon Valley called 500 Global. Actually, we have been running this fund, which is our second fund, since the beginning of 2021, and so far we've invested in around 30 companies. The average ticket size is 1 million, and we are still actively looking for founders and companies to invest. Our sweet spot is pre-seed and seed stages, and we focus on software-first companies. And from our first fund, which was around $10 million, and we actually had 3 unicorns, Carbon Health, Billion to One, and Insider. Hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll have even more success from that fund and this fund.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Thank you so much for being here, Tunya. George?
So for the last 10 years, I was talking about something called AI, and everybody looked at me as I'm crazy, which I probably am, right? And I talked about Haber's law, which I found out Haber in Turkey means news.
Haber.
Haber, yeah. Right? So the news is good. Because in the last 3 or 4 years, everybody understands suddenly what intelligence means. The name A, the letter A is misinterpreted. It's not artificial. It's actually the accumulation of all the human intelligence that now was aggregated and provided an easy access that is very human. And it will change absolutely everything. Every industry, is gonna change drastically. Believe me, put on your seatbelts. And realizing this and looking at what are the most complicated industries, and me being young, from time to time I have to go to doctors and take my kids to doctors, I realized how sick the healthcare system really is. And I said, well, let's go back to the first principles, which means what is the function of a system, what it should do, and realize how easily it can be totally changed to serve its constituents, to provide health care by using intelligence at the hospital management. The three main actors that I see in this healthcare system are the patient, who's actually the reason why the whole system exists. Then the doctor, who is the most important part of knowledge distribution inside the system towards the patient by using methods and apparatuses and medication and so on and so forth. And since nothing lives in void, the third pillar of this is the hospital itself as an organization that needs to make money while providing the best possible service. And luckily, using AI and some brilliant people that I knew, I put together this application fully functional in a couple of months with some brilliant people, and it's usable, and the people in the hospital were fainting when they saw it with pleasure. So that's kind of what I'm doing. I'm a young 70-year-old entrepreneur again. Before that, I had a couple of startups that were successful, and since you brought up Netflix and YouTube, my first company did video compression, and we sold it for a huge amount of money as a provider of video compression solutions. And in a previous podcast, I was telling you that it's the biggest success and the biggest failure of my life, because I didn't realize that the video compression, actually, the real thing is distribution of content. So I could have become Netflix, I could have become YouTube, but what I'm doing now is 1,000 times more important.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, like solving human health does seem like a larger goal.
Absolutely, and it's. I mean, I'll show you what an amazing thing already.
Nice.
It does.
I would love to take a look.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay, Adrian.
So I've been kind of spending my life between entrepreneurship, kind of a real brick and mortar world entrepreneurship here in Romania, where I'm originally from. I had a startup experience as a startup founder, then moved into, let's say, larger companies, scale-ups in product leadership position. I was in Grab in Southeast Asia, and then at Bolt, and then more recently at GetSafe, one of probably the biggest neo insurtech in Europe. And again, back in the founder's position, and most relevant for the Romanian market, I'm a co-founder at prețulmeu.ro, which is a price comparison engine for insurance products and financial products for the Romanian market.
Thank you. Now let's bring the bucket list. Who wants to start? Who has the courage to pick the first one? Okay. Tunya, please read it out loud and give us your perspective on it, and then let's move to see how the other can bring anything new on the perspective.
What makes a great investor?
Wow, nice.
I think I picked
you have a gold head.
The perfect.
You should play at Lotto.
Yeah, I will today, maybe. But I consumed all my luck
for today.
What makes a great investor? I think there are a lot of components that makes a great
after you answer, as you thought about it, also think about from the founder's perspective.
Yeah.
What they believe that a good investor should be for their startup. But
Sure.
just to complete the question
I think it's not too different from an investor's perspective to a founder's perspective, because what makes you a great investor is, of course, it makes you a great investor in terms of serving a founder. And making the founder happy, making a great investment, making a great capital allocation. So I think the great investor first understands fully what a founder is building. Of course, it's super impossible, especially for generalist investors like us, right? And we're not specializing on something that is, particular, for example, not AI or health tech or fintech. We cover almost all industries and all, sub-industries and technologies. But you have to, I think, make the research, and I think the great investor does not waste founders' time. So, for example, I was going to tweet about this because one of the founders I know got a reply from another investor that they were looking to raise from, that they're not going to invest in the company because of the market, and also the company is conflicting with one of the portfolio companies. But if you, so there are actually two possibilities, right? I mean, first, you're a bad investor because you didn't make a research and didn't check the materials that the founder sent you. By the way, provided the founder is not on stealth and haven't provided any documents prior to the meeting. So again, first, you're a bad investor because you didn't check what founder has sent you as a material. You didn't check the website, the documentation, and you couldn't understand that the company is conflicting with the founder. And I think that's the only possibility. You haven't checked the company because market and competition, and if it's conflicting with your portfolio company, it's pretty obvious. If you just take a glimpse, take a precious, investors, take a few seconds from your precious time and go check their website, go check their LinkedIn, and just have a glimpse at their pitch deck, and you will understand what the market they're operating in, who are the competitors, and if they have a potential conflict with your portfolio, for example. I think, this is the most basic thing. Don't waste a founder's time because their time is probably much more precious than yours. Nice.
Anything else to add, guys?
I think it's a phenomenal look at it. I had the fortune and the luck to meet most of the famous VCs, Vinod Khosla, the guys from Andreessen Horowitz and so on and so forth. And one of them told me something very smart and very simple, said, look, me as a VC, my role is to be chosen and then to choose.
This is exactly what I'm talking about, demand and supply.
Right.
Do not to put you in a position of demand. Founders are not demanding. Actually, VCs are demanding.
Right.
Good investors are demanding founders.
Nice.
And then, once we are chosen, we'll become a coach for the entrepreneur and help him connect within our network. And give them guidance like a boxing trainer, you punch like this and you do like that. Be forgetful and accept that sometimes the entrepreneurs are making mistakes, but be very wary about the guys that are bullshitting you and telling you what they think that you want to hear, because those are people that will not succeed in life. And that's the thing. It's be open, understand the motivations of everybody, and then change the world.
Exactly.
Nice. Thank you. Should we go next?
I can, because basically the question was very well answered, so there was nothing I wanted to add. And we have a lot of questions. Okay, so see, these are it might seem random, but we're making great choices. Wow. How do you balance the quality of a product and speed of execution, which is almost like an interview question for product management, right?
Yes, yes.
So one of the things to keep in mind is that depending where you are at the beginning of your product journey, where you are an individual contributor, you get assigned to an area of the product where you must drive value, or you are responsible for a larger organization. And I think the way you should approach this is to first understand the strategic and tactical part. So strategic, how can you bring value to the mid and long-term value of the company? How does the company make money? So you need to understand how money works in the company, how decisions get made, the larger market, the unit economics, the competitors. Like, don't think features. Like, we don't build features. Features are a way for the company to get to more market share, more revenue, satisfy more consumer need. It's not like the features comes at the very end of it. So once you understand this from like a strategic perspective, and then you form the idea for the domain that you are responsible for, again, regardless of what product level you are in a company, then you know exactly why you do what you do, right? Like what's the reason and the direction that you're probably going to have for the next 6 months, 18 months, and so on. And then when you come to tactical, the question is, how do you get from that big, grandiose vision into delivering incremental updates almost every sprint or every month? Because if you think of like two companies, running side by side in a highly competitive space, say two startups that are onto a great idea, what will make the difference between the two of them in 6 months is how much of the right thing did they do every month, and how much progress did they manage. Because if you stay and just build for 2 years in this like closed waterfall approach in which you don't talk to customers, but you're going to come with the greatest product ever in 2 years, first of all, it's not going to work because you probably don't have all the right answers. So you're going to build the wrong thing because you didn't talk to customers. But also in the meantime, your competitors acquire market share. They got all the great investors on board. They have the customers sign up, and for you, it's already too late. So the speed of execution in which you break down the vision in a way that every step is pushing your company and your product further into the marketplace, giving you an edge versus anyone else. And this is where the importance of prioritization comes, right? Like if you ask any startup founder or any like a tech company, they will give you like 10 of the things that they absolutely know that they need to do. But if you ask them in which order and show you the logical reason behind it, you are the mathematical, the profit and impact in unit economics of like, why are we building this feature this quarter, and this feature, which is also very important next quarter, is because this one brings us closer to whatever we want to achieve. Higher revenue, getting an investment, going to the market share, or acquiring more market share. So there's always this difference into knowing exactly, or knowing as close to exactly as you can, what do you need to do, what's the direction, and then breaking it down to the most efficient way to get there, which is where the speed of execution is terribly important.
I completely agree, and it shows that you're an experienced guy that went through the... Right, exactly. I don't want to show you my back.
I was definitely not doing that at the beginning of my product management career.
Which is great, because if you are naive and you believe that it's going to be easy, you jump faster into the water.
Yes. That's when you think like, I'm just going to build this feature and like everything is going to change. It's like nothing changes.
Yes.
Yes, but brings you closer to the next thing that it will change something.
And that's why like people always say like, stay into the market, fight, because the amount of learning and iteration that we'll get, this is the actual value, right? Like everyone's talking about lean startup, like the unit of measurement in applying lean startup and experimentation is the learning.
Exactly.
Right? Like, of course, the application of that is the outcome in like revenue or market share and so on. But like the learning is the most valuable thing that you extract by being in the market and like fighting and talking to customer and failing often and sometimes spectacularly publicly.
Super correct. And VCs, the successful ones, look at entrepreneurs that are willing to change, because once you hit a wall, you should not try to continue change reality, but you need to be able to adapt to reality, learn from the mistakes, and move fast forward. Those are the ones that succeed.
George, this is the perfect moment to tell us the riddle you told me last night with the barrier.
Right. So.
Anyone needs some water? Because I saw some of you looking at
me
it here in the back.
So basically, my father used to tell me, life is like a barrier. the pig goes underneath it, the the cow stops, and an agile animal, a bird, whatever jumps over it, ignores it completely. And that's really a lesson in life. I mean, don't stop at things that can be avoided.
Yeah. Find a way.
And don't be a pig either.
Nice. Let's go next. George, your time.
All right.
It's going to be like a health question.
Yes. What's Eastern Europe lacking to build a stronger startup ecosystems? I think courage. You know, the same Eastern European entrepreneurs that come to Silicon Valley,
they do great.
Suddenly they do great, and most of the big startups are with founders Eastern Europe, India, some Turkish guys I met as well. Because of the ecosystem in the US is more forgiving. In Europe, there were too many barons and nobles and that think that they know the future. While entrepreneurship is creating a different future from the one that is known, and perhaps some of the VCs that you don't speak French with the right accent will not invest in you because of that stupid, irrelevant question.
This is exactly what I was talking with our facilitator from the Startup Weekend about the Italian market. He told me that when you organize a startup weekend in Italy, the facilitator needs to speak Italy because they don't.
Yeah. Same in France and quite often in Spain as well. Yeah.
How do you?
But like my previous startup, like we got an investment from Telecom Italia, which is like the largest venture investor in Italy, and yeah, it's very different market. It's not good, not bad. It works for Italians, but even they complain about it sometimes. But I think it's also a matter of, as I was saying before, like the amount of learning that you can do. So if you are in an ecosystem where you have a lot of smart people, and by that I mean people with a lot of bruises in actually building things, you do get to learn a lot faster because you spend your time with peers, founders that are into the same type of battle. And your investor and the people that you meet at events and so on, they've all have a much higher level of experience of building this, and then you just learn. It's contagious. And what I've seen in Central and Eastern Europe is a lot of passion towards the vision, towards the product, but way less understanding of business, way less understanding of how to acquire market share or how to go to market, way less inclination to sell. Just to go out there and talk about your product and try to sell yourself, whether you sell it to consumers, whether you sell yourself to investors. So we probably, because of historical reasons, we don't have the culture to just shamelessly go and sell, which we see a lot more common in Western culture. So,
and if I may interject here, this is something I was telling a lot of people, that in Romania, most entrepreneurs were really screwed because the word bișnițar was considered a shameful word. To be a business guy was an insult.
Yes.
Which actually is the opposite. It is the person that connects between the market that has a need and the supplier. Without this connection, there is no profit.
yeah.
Now, thanks God that changed, but...
The culture is sometimes lurks underneath.
Right. And maybe that's another reason why Eastern Europeans, when they come to the US, they freed from these cultural constraints that...
This is why we always advise our founders, especially who are dealing with B2B enterprise or SaaS models and like selling to big enterprises, for example. I think going to the US, especially to San Francisco, it changed a lot in their mindset and they become more aggressive. And because like they see it,
they
right?
See it,
they
exactly.
see it like from their network, from the other founders that, to build a huge and scalable business, you as a founder is super critical for the business model itself. So you go to talk to founders and VCs there, and get in touch with enterprises, and suddenly your view about and your vision and your path to scale that business suddenly changes. And your possibility of getting there becomes even like 10 times, 20, 100 times bigger.
Nice. Thank you. Let's go next. Tunya.
Yeah, okay. I will mix it a little bit.
Let's see if your streak goes on.
What startup tech trends are the most promising these days? AI. Shocking.
This was the only obvious question.
But like, let's go deeper. Like, what part of AI? Because there's like,
yes.
You know, like there's the tooling behind it. There's consumer-facing stuff. There's supporting. It's like chip manufacturing. There's like,
and you know, like it is like these days. I think, especially early-stage investors like us, became even more skeptical towards AI. It might be like surprising. Of course, like we would like to invest in as many Gen AI startups as possible, but we are like, I think 10 times more conscious and careful about the businesses that we invest around generative AI. So what actually makes us interested and excited is the business models who are enabling people to build things around AI. And because like, you know, with the last improvements in the language models, and there are other right now startups like Mistral emerging to, for example, I heard like companies who are just allocating some budget and they don't know what to build, so they just, for example, give some product guys some budget and build like whatever tool you build, but it should be around Gen AI, it should be useful for the company. So for example, companies enabling inference, companies, for example, creating complex workflows around, multiple agents, multiple AI agents. This is actually what makes us super, like, fundamentally and substantially excited these days around generative AI.
I mean, you're doing absolutely the right thing, and David, you know my story with NVIDIA.
Yep.
So I would not come close and touch anything that's fundamental. For me, all this is like cement. Mm-hmm. The LLM models, the ovens that are the GPUs that to burn the stone to make it into cement. These are tens of billions of dollar investment, no chance for any startup to make a penny out of it. But creating smart agents, intelligent agents, that can be deployed into accounting or a hospital or anywhere else within minutes, and can change the view of management into all the components of that enterprise, that is the future. It's like the scalpels, the architects of today that use cement to build gorgeous buildings that, yeah. So that is for me the great thing about AI, and that's why it's changing absolutely everything, because everything is now, you have access to knowledge.
Yeah, but from another perspective, you don't know what will become proprietary or what will be proprietary or stay proprietary, or what will get commodity, right? Now everything is super accessible, like everything is changing. So right now, even like there are, for example, like content creation means, it has a less meaning, let's say.
Remember when there was a big fight in the tech world, who was going to build like the best browser, and building a browser was thought of that's right. A business. And now it's like, I mean, of course, this like browser is super important, but like no one is intrinsically making money out of the browser. No one is launching new browsers. But the real value is what you can build on top of internet, combined with like powerful browser with a lot of technology. So I think we're in this space where, like we have this amazing prediction engine, statistical prediction engine in the back, because it's like we call it AI, but we used to call it machine learning models in companies for the past 4 or 5 years. But even now it has like this text interface. It's so obvious that some computer geeks were like, this is the best interface for what it can do now. But this is obviously not the best interface that's going to have in like 4-year times from like how a product would look that would be used in either a business-to-business environment or business-to-consumer. So I think this is a great moment to build the tooling, the infrastructure. But the real products in 3 to 5 years' time will look and feel much more different. They will probably be much more embedded. And I think, like, if you look at amazing businesses that have been created in the past decade, is always this amazing combination between online and offline. I call it like combining bits and atoms. So we figure out that there's going to be huge power in the bits generated by AI. Now the thing is, how do you combine it with the atoms in the real world? Whether those atoms are like, ride-hailing, like a car coming to pick you up to take you there, or the producing content that we were talking about in the example with like Netflix and YouTube. It's like trying to understand how the bits and atoms will combine and building a model around that where you can leverage
a perfect thing. And looking at it from a different angle, you can see AI as eliminating the gatekeepers, the people that were in the middle, that were intermediating between your need. You had to call a taxi dispatch and the driver who wanted to take you from. So with AI, all the gatekeepers are gone, all the bureaucrats, and that's why many countries, EU included, with the AI laws, schmoz, whatever, which, by the way, I gave to ChatGPT to tell me how you can circumvent pig versus, and it gave me an answer in 2 minutes, how to be compliant and do still whatever you want. So this is the explosion, the phenomenal thing that this intelligence, augmented intelligence, brings to everyone. And coming back to you, absolutely right, to be sticky, to not be replaced by another person that does something. You have to have that connection to the taxi itself, to the X-ray equipment, to the because then you have stickiness, you have intelligence, you make everything 10 times cheaper, 100 times more pleasant. And that's how you make another trillion. I mean, come on.
Let's go next.
All right. This is fun. Let's see. Next question. Why should you become a startup founder?
Why?
I think if you are particularly restless and unhappy with a lot of things around you in your life, there's a moment when this itch would drive you towards like, I can do better. And I think this constant need for improvement and for learning and this curiosity of doing these experiments to make things better, this is what I've seen as quite important characteristic amongst a lot of startup founders. They are just not happy with the status quo. They are a bit annoying because they always criticize things, but I think this is one underlying quality that enables them to jump into action because they are so profoundly dissatisfied with how things work around them. So they might be pretty annoying in real life because they complain a lot, but
they do something.
Exactly.
Like the way all geniuses are. You know, Steve Jobs, talk to him. I had that luck, right? The most horrible human being he was. Right, and Musk and all these geniuses, they are
true.
That's part of being creative and wanting to change the world. So, sorry to interrupt you.
In one lecture, I think Jeff Bezos was saying, like, usually like founders building some tech or a company, there are people who are like unhappy about things that as they are, like normal things. So for example, I don't know, like shower, like why is a shower too hot, too cold, or how can I arrange it, how can I optimize it?
But do something about it.
Yes,
especially in Eastern Europe,
go get
we are very good at
complaining but not doing anything.
Exactly.
But we are learning that I can change it. And by the way, if I change it, I can be also a billionaire. Which is fantastic.
There's a lot of value in doing this because, like what I was saying before, you get so much learning by challenging the status quo and by doing things. And I almost look at it as like if you spend 12 months of looking deeply into a topic, trying to understand it, try to really understand how things work, regardless of what you do as a founder, you have achieved a lot of knowledge equity in that area, which is extremely valuable either for you in your respective company or if you go and get a job into another company.
We'll go next, but before that, I will let George to have the last one because he has to leave, and then we continue with
how to know when to admit startup failed
we want to finish
versus keep building. Startup never fails, really. Now, maybe in its correct present situation, it cannot continue. Now, if you have a smart VC that talks to you, you can pivot slightly and become a humongously successful company. And you know, failure is actually a lesson to be learned, accumulated, added to all the ingested data that you already have. And without failure, there is no success. I mean, that's the reality.
I think that you failed when you stop.
Yeah, when you give up.
Yeah.
If you don't give up, you take it as a lesson, another bruise on your back or punch in the face makes you stronger, smarter, and that's, I think, what's admired by the team, that the CEO doesn't run away with the money like Sam Altman, not Sam Altman, the other one.
The guy from WeWork, I think.
Yeah, no, I was talking about the Bitcoin guy.
The crypto guy, okay. No one is talking about crypto anymore.
And you take it as a challenge, and your team respects you that you don't give up, that you say, okay, we learned this, now let's continue that, and that's how you succeed. I mean, all the successful companies, Uber, Bolt, I'm sure they hit the wall a couple of times, and that's when they learn the most.
Oh man, I hope Sam Altman doesn't
Run
away.
With the USB stick? I mean, they tried to kick him out and he came back, so I think that's a good sign.
No, he like Musk, it cannot be stopped. All the idiots that think that by punishing Musk or whatever, they can stop him, it's the opposite. He makes him more
stronger,
right?
Best strategies to scale your startup in 2024. Wow, that's like super general question.
Yeah, but maybe something that you saw working for the startups in your portfolio.
I think constant iteration. Like if you don't get better, you're going worse. Like there's nothing in between. Like you don't stay where you are because the world is changing, right? And your technology should get better. Your technology should be more and more appealing to your users, or you should change your user base or whatever. Like you should be changing and iterating always and always. So for the ones who did not, like I think like this is when a startup fails. If the startup is not getting better, I think it's failing. I mean, it's not that it's dying, but it's failing. So I think that's the question, the answer that I can give to this very generalist question.
Thanks.
And I think like going back to one of the previous questions relating to speed, I think speed is even more important. Just because a lot of I think that the technological barrier to achieve things is much more accessible, much lower. So besides the fact that you have a lot of no-code, low-code tools that allow you to start and experiment things, now add the capabilities in AI to enhance your small engineering team, and all of a sudden your small engineering team can almost fight at the same quality level with companies that can afford to hire extremely experienced engineers or like much bigger teams. So I think there's a lot of equalizing technology available on the market that lets you accelerate much faster as a small team, because you have much more cohesion when you are a small team, and communication is less of a friction. But now you also have the output of larger teams thanks to existing technologies. And just like rapid iteration is so much more enabled now than it used to be, 5 years ago or 10 years ago.
Absolutely.
All right, let's see what's the... How and when would you raise your seed round today? Well, I think it's always a good idea to have capital. I think like every founder, because like there's a lot of cases when you go try something out, it doesn't work, and you return the capital. Key question being you return the capital. I think that VC is more likely to invest in you again if you're willing to like go in, put in the fight, learn. So you should always treat other people. You should treat your money responsibly, but you should treat other people's money with even more responsibility. But raising the seed round and raising any round is usually best if it happens before you actually desperately need the money, because that's when you get way more optionality into who you are raising the money from, at what valuation you're raising the money from. And this is like unfortunately not the case for a lot of companies. First, because of this current environment where it's much harder to raise money than it used to be probably some time ago. I'm not saying it's good or bad, it's just it's how it is. But also because as a startup founder, it's much more complicated to align your priorities. When you are the CEO of a small company, you're doing like what, 12 jobs? Whereas if your company is more established and you can delegate a lot more of parts of the business, you can actually focus on fundraising more, which is probably the one part of building the company that should not be delegated by the CEO, and definitely not at seed round. So raise it as soon as you can, but also balance it. You should raise it when you have something of value that you can make
Leverage.
the investors excited about.
And
so
benchmark it,
exactly.
benchmark it like comparing to the pre-seed round.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think like especially for a startup who, for example, raised pre-seed maybe like 1 or 2 years, I definitely suggest raising money, especially if you have something that is substantially comparable to when you raise your pre-seed round. So it can be product, it can be pre-organizational maturity. So for example, you have a very solid sales playbook in place. Now you need the money to have a VP of sales to train, and then you hire a bunch of salespeople. Like this can be also like one of the reasons, but especially when you have a solid product market fit or a strong product market fit hypothesis, and you need a go-to-market budget for that, then I think this is when you need to raise your seed. And the expected time spent for you to achieve that after raising your pre-seed is 1 to 2 years. And I think when you should pre-seed, seed, they do not have a meaning these days.
Yeah.
You cannot understand which, you for example, like a startup raises seed, 7 million, 8 million, then you're confused because this is not a seed round. But yeah, I mean, especially when you think that you will need more capital to achieve your next milestone, I think this is when you should raise your seed round. And again, this is expected to be in 1 to 2 years because, especially your pre-seed investors are expecting you to have at least have achieved a few milestones in the product timeline, have for example, an MVP or something that you're having a few pilots with, especially with international customers. I think these are a few factors that can validate you raising a seed round, and you can showcase these achievements. Again, having pilots with 2-3 at least international clients, being design partners with them. Still, you can have a product in process, but at least you're working on it, and you have a few clients that are lined up that are using and designing the product with you. I think this is one of the things that you can showcase while raising a seed round.
I don't know where the terminology comes from, why is it called a seed round, but I think kind of makes sense. I think you have to have the seed. You have to have something that can grow.
In pre-seed, for example, we've also done a few silver bullet investments, super idea stage. We call them pre-seed, of course. And pre-seed means that you don't have anything to grow, right?
Exactly.
You're just looking for the seed.
Exactly.
But seed, I think the analogy is true.
Yeah.
But it's also probably the different, because you were saying the size of the round can vary quite a lot. And I think it's exactly as you said before, it's what is the plan to use the round for? So if it's for this key hires in go-to-market, then yes, probably that's somewhere around seed to Series A.
Exactly.
If you raise a Series D, it's not going to be for go-to-market, regardless of the size of that.
Hopefully not.
So I think
it's
so regardless of the amount, it's probably on the moment in your company's evolution and how you plan to go to market.
Nice.
Yeah.
One more round and ready?
Sure,
let's do it. You have 1,000 euros and a startup idea. What do you do next? I think I would buy a ticket to San Francisco
Wow. Okay.
And of course, like first, I would definitely find a co-founder first. I think
You don't believe in solo founders then?
No, I think it's too risky, especially, I mean, considering that I have only 1,000 euros. This will be my potentially first successful startup, because if I only have 1,000 euros, then like I'm not doing pretty well in my my previous ventures. Probably I failed at my previous ventures and I only have 1,000 euros. So probably I would definitely first find a co-founder, and then I would find a few angels to give me more money, like at least like, I don't know, 50,000, 60,000 for me to just start building it, because if I have 1,000, I will need some salary at least for survival.
Exactly.
And again, like I would definitely go to San Francisco and start raising there, because I think like being there, starting building from the ground there in San Francisco, it makes a lot of difference than being in anywhere else in the world. So probably I would, definitely apply to YC or any other successful accelerator, but YC is, I think, leading in that category these days at least.
And for the last almost 2 decades,
yeah.
I think.
I would definitely, because like probably I would need an accelerator to accelerate my ideas.
Why do you think a founder needs an accelerator?
So not always a founder needs an accelerator, of course. Like this, like considering again, I couldn't success in my previous ventures. This actually made me think that I need some advice. I need some mentors.
You're a first-time founder. For
example, if I am a first-time founder, of course. So probably I need some advice. I need some connections and engagements with people who succeeded in it, and YC also provides you that. So they actually have a group of mentors that you can meet with in their organization, and these mentors are founders, like current founders of their portfolio companies. So I think it would be valuable, like super valuable, unimaginably valuable for me to accelerate my business.
Adrian, what's your version?
I think there's this like a very famous $5 challenge, and you can read about it. It's like super fun project. I talk about it in some of the workshops that I do, which is like very similar. Like you have $5 as like equity investment. What would you do like practically and just make it more money? And in this experiment, the actual answer is the value is not in the $5. The value is in the work that you put as a founder. So I think my answer would be 1,000 is so little as an amount of money that I would not anchor myself to the 1,000. And I would more look to where I am on kind of like the entrepreneurial journey. And I look at it as like discovering and understanding the problem, going from to problem and solution fit, and then from there going to product to market fit and kind of building and scaling from there. So if you're looking at $1,000 or euros as a value, you are probably in understanding the problem space. So I would spend that money if that would be like, for covering costs, whether that's, rent or food or anything else related to the product, I would spend that money trying to understand the problem, which means in practical cases, build a landing page, do a Google Ads campaign, get people to your website, have them sign up for something, go and talk to customers and validate or invalidate some of your assumptions. So then you can move to the next stage and you have a potential problem to solution fit, because that's exactly what you can pitch to an early stage investor. I discovered this problem, here's the work that I've done. I have some sort of validation towards a problem to solution fit. Now I want to lurk and find out if there's a market behind this.
Nice. Last one.
Alrighty, let's see. What is the biggest myth related to becoming a startup founder? I think one of the things that we all see is this bias that we all read about the successful stories in TechCrunch, and we all see, we all see Elon Musk and the successful founders that have made it. What we don't see is the other 99 out of 100 that failed, and we don't see the consequences on their personal life, personal relationships of that. Because just like George was saying before, like you get bruised a lot, and some people don't quit, and that's great in the stories where things end up working well, but people that did not quit but did not achieve much in 20 to 30 years, if you ask them, they will have had a pretty miserable life. And there's always this question of like, where do you call it quits? And either start working on a new project, and it's always hard as a startup founder to do your first pivot. I call it a very, very plastically, it almost feels like you need to kill your baby, because it's your idea that you've put so many years into it, and you have like invalidated it. It is so hard to pivot. It's so hard to close it down because you've invested emotionally so much. But if you pivot once, then like second and third, I will just become much. No, let's pivot, let's change again. So I think this is the myth that we see this as, and we expect this type of very nice story that has a spectacularly good ending, whereas the reality is that the path and the journey is so much harder, orders of magnitude harder than you expect. But as I said, like if you find enjoyment in solving those problems and going through those like little pains, and that brings you energy, I think you have what it takes. And if you don't, that's absolutely fine. Doesn't mean anything other than you're probably not super well equipped to be this type of entrepreneur. Like I may enjoy basketball because I'm tall, but that doesn't mean I should like aim to be in the NBA. I should absolutely mind my own business and do something else. So it's the same thing. Like it doesn't mean that if you try and fail and just doesn't work, you are still probably an amazing professional. You learn so much. You can bring so much value into different ways, either starting a different company or like working in someone else's company and bringing value. So yeah, it's not so romanticized as we might think by reading some interesting TechCrunch articles.
Guys, thank you so much for taking the time. And thank you to all of you that watched this episode. Don't forget about Bright Labs Incubator. If you have an idea, if you want to start this journey, we are here to help you with mentors like Tunya, like Adrian, like George, and others that are around our community. Until next time, keep building.